is dedicated to helping you understand what goes behind the scenes in the real estate industry. And I've got a guest who was on my show 2 years ago, Grant Findlay-Shirras from ParkBench. Grant, it's so good to catch up with you again. And what's going on in your world right now?
Well, yeah, thanks, Larry, for inviting me back. Appreciate you. And yeah, 2 years. We've gone through COVID. We are now going through this economy. But for us, it's been actually a good time because last time we chatted, we hadn't got accepted yet and started the REACH program. So some of you listening may have heard the National Association of Realtors has a technology accelerator program called REACH. They select 8 to 10 companies a year that they think can help their members with their business in some way, shape, or form. And we were selected for the Reach Canada class. It was the first group, so we can always say we were the first ones. I actually became valedictorian and had to do a speech at the end. That was pretty
Wow.
cool.
Well,
That my peers said, "Hey, you represent us," and I said, "Oh, really? Okay." So that was a really great
awesome.
program and really helped us grow as a company. I think post COVID, relationships, referrals, community, digital just matters even more. And that just happens to be our sweet spot. So that was wonderful. And then, people always ask us, like, hey, I don't know if I can work with you. My area is taken, or I'm new and I can't afford it yet. Um, and so I'm like, how do I still help these people move along in their business? And we have all these amazing clients who are crushing it and they're doing well despite all these challenges in this world.
Right.
And I said, I think we should write a book on how to grow a business through relationships and referrals in a specific geographic area.
Right.
And we can all share our own stories on how to do it. And we did. It became an international bestseller, like thousands and thousands of copies. We were so pumped how responsive agents were to getting it. It's called Become a Local Leader. If you're watching, you can see it. And then last year, we're like, let's do it again and have a different twist because the world's different. It changes so much. And we came out with Referral Secrets, and that also became a bestseller. And so those are just two of some of the amazing things that have happened the last couple of years that has helped us grow as a company and has helped me contribute more to the industry.
I want to help the audience understand here the difference between what you do and, say, for instance, buying leads from Zillow or any of the other OpCity, Realtor.com, any of these other platforms that sell leads. Um, to actually have a great business, everyone knows you have to create good relationships. Know, like, and trust you. That's that. The only people are ever going to work with you do that. So what you want to be happen is you want to be known, liked in your neighborhood. Well, one of the ways to go out and actually touch people in your neighborhood is be involved in your community. Actually, do something. Volunteer and all of that. But most agents aren't like that. They go into the business and they go and they buy leads. So they get people who are searching for a house and they might, 2 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms, which is kind of odd because usually it's 3 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms. But these people had an issue and they just needed that extra bathroom. In any event, these are what are cold leads, and ParkBench has a whole different way of doing it. So talk about some of the differences that ParkBench is and why it's not a lead creation thing. It's a community relation development approach. Do I have that
Yeah.
right?
So it's funny you said I would call these lead generators because I actually use the word lead creation in a positive sense. So I tell agents, I'm like, look, there's two ways of building your business, and you can pick whichever one you want. Number one is you can buy it. So old school was direct mail, bus benches, billboards, radio, newspapers, magazines. Then Zillow came along, Realtor.com. Then you can spend money on Google SEO, pay per click, Facebook ads, Google, and so the list goes on. There's just so many ways that you can spend money. And then however you spent it, it will generate leads for you.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, the quality of those leads and the time it takes to even work them, to hopefully convert them, is just getting worse and worse. I think because consumers are now aware of why it's happening. And so they don't put their correct information in, they're not serious. And there's all these reasons why the quality has gone down, but the cost keeps going up with inflation and all this stuff. So the ROI for agents has been declining. But yet I know some people still do it and still do well with it. And so like that is one method. The other method is like the old school, and the problem is now how to do it. And that's building your business on relationships and referrals, which, and they are, I looked at this study. So before COVID, 50% of homeowners found their agent through relationships and referrals, 50% through advertising and all the various forms of advertising. Post COVID 2020, they redid the study and you asked consumers, how'd you find your agent? 77% came from relationships and referrals, 23% came from forms of advertising. So the reason why I came up with ParkBench for myself, my wife, and the whole business is how to help an agent connect with their community.
Right.
How can you build new relationships and meet new people? Because if you come in the industry and say, I have some friends and family, and you go work them like a well, if you don't fill it, it'll run dry. You can't do that forever. And so the hack that we found was if you can help homeowners stay up to date with what's going on, and if you can help business owners make money and grow themselves, that's a way to build relationships where you haven't talked about real estate yet. But because you're giving value first,
Right.
people now want to hire you and they want to refer you.
Right.
And so we just help people build their business that way. And old school was cold calling and door knocking. And prior to the internet, people maybe were more responsive to cold calling and door knocking, but now they're not. And so
Right.
again, so many agents struggle to figure out how to build their business this way. I think that's why they resort to ads, because it just seems easy and there's all these people
Right.
calling, texting, emailing you, trying to sell it. And we just figured out maybe a new way of getting back to the basics.
One of the things that we haven't spoken about yet, Grant, here is that we've on this show interviewed a number of agents, and they just use a social media tool. They're Instagram specialists, or they're TikTok people, or they're YouTube people. There's an agent in North Carolina, great agent. Came into the town, didn't speak the language at the beginning, and all she did, because she was learning the area, she would go around and do just little videos of what was in the town. Well, she now has something like 100,000 followers, and if you ever want to know anything about Asheville, North Carolina, but she is the park bench in that area. She did exactly what you're doing. You make it easier for people because you're using public records, it seems to me, to actually fill a pipeline of information for people from the community to understand the community. Let me say that another way, if I could. Um, uh, if you live in a town, there's two ways to get your information. You go to the town website to find out what's going on with the town, whether, what is going on, development, all that kind of stuff, what you can do, what you can't do. Or you go on to their Facebook page or any of those kind of things, where you hear mostly people complaining. Or, I love your son, or wasn't our football team the best this year, and all that kind of stuff. You cross all of those boundaries where you're paying attention to what's going on specifically in those towns. How are you gathering that information?
Yeah. So fortunately, I had a co-founder who was extremely smart and understood AI. I know AI has become really popular with this chat GPT thing, but he had built this AI and machine learning technology. 2012 is when we kind of start playing around with this idea, because there's so much information about every community on the internet.
Yeah. Yes.
And like the town's website is just one source.
Yeah.
And like that local blog that people love, that's just one source.
Yeah.
because there's all these people creating content about the neighborhood, whether it be all the businesses on their websites and social media pages, all the schools, all the community groups, all the publications, all the blogs, all the, so and so. And you're one way of getting your information, you go to Google and you could just start typing stuff in, but it would take you a long time to do all the searches and sift through all the results. And so my co-founder figured out how, kind of like Google, we're going to scan the internet, find everything about XYZ neighborhood, let's say Asheville, North Carolina, and we're going to grab all this information, organize it, categorize it, and then display it on a neighborhood website and be like, here's the news feed, here's the events feed, here's the deals feed, here's the schools, here's so
New
on.
listings.
And listings, and let's update this every day. So it now becomes almost the new newspaper for the neighborhoods, just
Yeah.
online and on your
Yeah.
phone.
Yeah. And you, as the agent who's working with ParkBench, then own that community because you only
Yeah,
work
so
with one
we work
person
with
in it.
one agent per neighborhood, because then, when my wife and I did this, I think one of the reasons why it worked is we were doing something different.
Yeah.
We were doing something that no one else was doing. And so when agents came to us and said, I want to do what you guys are doing, but only you'll let me do this in my neighborhood, right? And we're like, yeah, I guess that makes sense. So you can thank Lisa Monroe, who vouched to be the first client ever who said, I'll do this right now if you only work with me in my neighborhood. And we said, yeah, sure. And so then we just went with it. And 10 years later, we continue to work with one agent per neighborhood and give them a resource to give their community.
Yeah.
And local content. This is like, to speak to that agent you talked about on social media. There are other agents doing it. I think there's some agents who just naturally have great skills and personality and tech, and
Very
they're able
few.
to do this without ParkBench. And great, kudos to you.
Very
But the
few.
majority of agents, they
Yeah.
don't know how to do this. They don't know social media. They don't know video. They don't know all this stuff. And that's why ParkBench exists, to like help make it happen for them too.
And they're not
So
consistent with it.
yeah, and we have coaching and accountability, all that stuff. And because local content is this great catalyst to connect with people before they need to buy or sell.
Right.
And like, how do you get a person to think of you when they want to buy or sell? You need to have a relationship with them prior to it, and local content and interviewing and creating content about the area,
Yeah.
and interviewing local businesses. One makes you an expert in the area. I love that byproduct that you said. It's like everyone wants to be the expert. Okay, well, go do the work.
Yeah.
Go be the expert.
Yeah.
And then display that you're the expert.
Yeah.
And then people will hire
Yeah.
you. I promise.
Yeah. Yeah. Subject matter expertise. It's so attractive out there. And far less attractive is you coming in and saying, I'm the best at this and nobody else is as good. And, it's not believable for the most part.
Well, I want to get your take on this, because there's so many new agents or people who are not number one in a market.
Right.
And a lot of agents come to us saying, well, how do I get established? Like, before they work with us, it's almost as if they feel like they won't get hired because they're new, because they don't have reviews, because they don't have a track record. And from your experience, how does that type of agent get established and break into a market?
By not believing that they can't. By believing that they can. And then by every day getting out there and talking to people, knowing I can help you. I do know this about it. One of the other things I learned at early on is that if you're driving down a street where expired listing, let's talk about an expired listing for a moment. It just came on the market, so there's now 72 agents that have either called or knocked on the door in the first hour. And they're just really kind of frustrated by that. But say you were in that neighborhood and you saw that they were laying new drainage so you know that all of a sudden, because of the town doing this, and it was wasn't it horrible dropping your kids off at school because the new drain line is going in front of Esther Williams School, and you had to swim there. You're talking about something that they experienced that morning. And you have greater credibility because you had the same experience they had. And that's being a true neighborhood or community person, is being out there. You don't have to be out there on every single street and all of that, but you have to be willing to do the work if they ask you a question.
Yep.
And you're,
And you gotta get to know your area in order
yeah,
to be an expert.
yeah,
And if you look at the research, like this is what the thing I always tell agents, I'm like, if you look at the research and ask and homeowners when surveyed why they hired this person over the other person, the number of transactions is low on the list.
yeah,
So that fear that, oh, I haven't done as many transactions, so I don't know if I should focus on the area that I live in, I think is just a myth. I think you should work where you live because it's easier to make people believe you're an expert if you also live there.
yeah, yeah. And for me, as I was longer in the industry, I just wanted to drive less. I don't want to drive an hour and a half
Totally.
to get to a listing. You know, that's three
Yeah.
hours, let alone the time. I need to be more efficient with my time. So if you're,
I think a lot about that a lot is what is an agent's goal? Like
yeah,
when people like are thinking about working with us, I'm like, what's your goal? Both lifestyle as well as
yeah,
income and location and ideal clientele, because you can work backwards from it. And that's
yeah,
how every great business owner ever has success. They think about their end outcome and they just reverse engineer and go backwards.
right,
And if you ever want to not have to drive around a lot, have 100% relationship referral based business at a certain income level that suits your needs, you can't buy advertising to get there. It's a different formula. And so
yeah,
why do you even bother getting into it if you know that down the road you are trying to just have a relationship and referral based business? Yes, it takes some legwork to make it happen, but it can happen.
I think of it, I had heard this so many years ago, the difference between advertising, public relations, and promotion. Advertising is when you say you're a good date, public relations is when your mom says you're a good date, and promotion is when your date says you're a good date. If you can engage your community with you, they're already saying you're a good date and I want to work with you.
Mm-hmm.
So, working with the type of tool that ParkBench is gives you a leg up in your community and
And you
is
know
a
what's
way.
interesting? And you know what's interesting? You want to know how you get word of mouth promotion? You promote the people you
Yeah,
want to give you word of
yeah,
mouth.
yeah, yeah,
When I tell agents, I'm like, you want word of mouth? I can snap my fingers and help you get word of mouth on demand whenever you want. You just say when, and I'll give you the blueprint. And they go, okay, well, what is it? I said, you're going to go interview the local that person. You're going to feature them,
yeah,
and they're going to then feature that thing that you just did on their social media.
yeah,
But then who else is being promoted?
yeah, yeah,
You.
yeah,
And so there you are. You've now just been promoted to that person's audience because you focused on promoting them.
yeah,
And to change the way you think about business, you can get the outcome you want.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Um, I just find that the tools that are available to agents these days, including ParkBench, and here's another one that doesn't compete with you at all, but provides information and create is KCM, Keeping Current Matters. You
I
know,
like them.
yeah, yeah, I do too. I mean, it's a good platform. They speak on a national level though, and people don't want a national level. National averages mean nothing to somebody in
Mm-hmm.
Massachusetts or somebody in British Columbia, because what does that have to do with my town, you know?
Mm-hmm. I
And
know it's been something I been wanting to try to figure out. I just haven't quite figured out yet how to easily make real estate market reporting on a hyper local level everywhere. Because agents do need to
yeah,
probably be more efficient at learning the market and then be efficient at at explaining what's going on in
right,
the market to
right,
their audience.
right,
So again, I think keeping current matters is taking a step forward in the right direction and helping agents be aware of what's going on. And it's not useful to know what's going on nationally, but locally is more important.
oh, far more important. And you need to take that national information and understand, okay, is that applicable and how is it applicable? Like average price point in several of the towns around me. One community, it's 1.8 million. The community next to it, it's 770,000. Those are
Mhm.
big numbers, but I'm in the Northeast. So,
Mhm.
national averages for those two different towns are very different. And you need to dig down and see if what they're speaking about nationally is working in if the average, like the average price point nationally is somewhere between 300,000 and 400,000. Well, that's considerably different. But how many houses are being sold? And
How,
is it, go ahead.
how much time do you think agents should spend per day researching their local market? And then how do you recommend they do it? Because how about you?
Um, I try and time block, and it's time ball because it's always rolling for me. It's supposed to be here, but somehow it rolls to a different area. But I spend time every day at different tasks, and that's one of them. Researching, because I work with mostly investors, researching those specific things that they're trying to do, which gives me a broader overview. And then I spend time with posting content. Okay, I found this out now, and I know doing it specifically for my 6 or 7 investors, but that I can attract other investors with this. Hey, guess what I just found out? Without giving anything away, but showing my work, as it were.
Yeah. Yeah. It's actually interesting to think that, some agents are like, oh, I'm working with this buyer or seller and it's just not closing yet. But the fact that you have people to work with means you have a purpose to research and learn, to provide value that you could then repurpose and then give out to your community to attract more buyers and sellers who actually may close or transact faster than the ones you're working with, but you're just leveraging and maneuvering and not getting frustrated because
Right.
they're actually providing value whether they close or not.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's really cool.
And you have to have more in your pipeline so any individual deal doesn't break you.
Totally.
And that is hard at the beginning, especially for new agents. They want to put all their eggs in that, and I'm going to get this great testimonial, but you need more because things go wrong, and somebody dies, somebody gets divorced, somebody loses a job. You got to have more in your pipeline.
I was speaking to an agent about this. What's your take on, I'm newer in the business and I know I need to invest in my business, but my mindset right now is I'll make an investment after I get some closings.
No,
And I've just been trying to think, you know,
no, no.
how to get through to that agent that like you're in business now
Right.
and businesses make investments in their business prior to having business. Like look at any small business out there, like they're getting huge SBA loans to open up their restaurant, salon. Why do you think you can just get started in this business with nothing?
Right.
But what do you say to an agent who you maybe want to mentor and help them think about how to grow their business properly, like the chicken and egg problem? I need
Well, it's
money,
time.
but I need to
It's
get
time.
clients.
It's time and money. It's time and money. At the beginning, you have more time and less money. So, what are you doing with that time to get to the
Mm-hmm.
money? And you have to be studying. You have to be spending, you have to be understanding that you can move without the ball, as good athletes say. So, when that ball it bounces somewhere, that you're nearby, that you're in the game, but that you spend the time every single day doing just that. When you do have to spend, every single agent has to spend on education. There's no reason not to. Everyone should have a coach. That's been proven over and over again. You need to have accountability. I start every day and have my entire career with a half-hour accountability call with someone, and I've done it with like 12 different people over the many years that I've been at this. Never in my market, always somewhere else, but you start your day running, not walking, because you're already talking about real estate. You've already done some objection handlers. But time and money is always the thing. That's why I don't want to drive an hour and a half to a listing, because that's 3 hours of windshield time. And
So you've done daily accountability with just other agents just to help each other, where you
yeah,
both just hold each other accountable to your shared.
yeah, yeah.
your personal goals. Good for
Yeah.
you. That's cool.
Yeah, I learned that early on too. Um, we think we know everything because when we're in the room all by ourselves, we've got to be the closer in that room. But by talking to other people, by actually liking your colleagues, um, and spending time with them, you get to admire them. I uh, I put things in sports, motif because I like it. But all the top athletes in a sport, they all know each other. Doesn't mean they like each other, but they know each other because they're all the high society people, whether they like New York high society, there's people that go to those big balls, they all know each other because they're all at the same parties. So know who you're playing with and be a subject matter expert. Be somebody who has value, you know. Be somebody who people want to walk over and talk to because no matter what, you're going to learn something. Be that person. The only way you can do that is to have resources like you provide. Because the beauty of yours, when I was looking at the system earlier today, I looked at my community. You're out there. I don't think you've ever been to Newton Center, Massachusetts, but there were things in there that I found like, oh, that's what they're doing. I didn't know that. I wanted to know that, about a project that I hadn't seen any update on. But it was right there because your system is creating it. You can take your system and you can spend 20 minutes just going through and then make your phone calls.
Yeah.
Did you know
Are you-
this?
Yeah,
Yeah.
we say that all the time. We say, again, a common thing is like time is money, and agents intelligently have been trying to find stuff on about their communities to post on social media, but it takes time to research it. And so again, our AI will just do the work and then just go to the site that you now have and then just find the thing that you want to share and click share and poof, you're done.
You have
Um,
something to talk about.
yeah,
And
yeah,
that's a lot of the times they don't, oh, I don't know what I'm going to talk about. Talk about what they're interested in. They live in the community, they might be interested.
yeah.
And
It goes to like one of my favorite phrases is a common thing in life is like, oh, I'm stressed, I'm overwhelmed, I don't know what to talk about, I don't know what to do, I'm confused, I'm lost. And it's like, well, that's very selfish of you to be thinking about yourself.
yeah,
Why don't you go focus on what the people in your community need,
yeah.
what your homeowners need, what your database needs, what your sphere of influence needs? And lo and behold, I bet when you start focusing on that, all your I statements will probably go away.
Yeah, yeah. There are people right now across this country sitting and having dinner, or it's earlier there, maybe preparing to have dinner with someone, um, and they're wondering, how are we going to sell this house? Or our baby is coming. We need a bigger place. Those
Mhm.
people are out there and having that conversation. If you're not talking to them, you're not going to know it.
Yeah, that's something like I bet you've looked at these statistics. Is the turnover rate?
Yeah,
So agents are like, oh, I don't, the economy's so bad. I'm like, look, it's just slower. It's not. That's all
yeah,
it is. 6, 7 million transactions now, 4 to 5 million, whatever it ends up being. All that means is people instead of them moving every 10 to 15 years, they're moving every 15 and 20 years
yeah,
at this rate. So all you need is just a bigger database, a bigger sphere of influence, and stay in touch with them, and you'll get the same deal flow, and you'll close sales. And maybe
right,
extra work to now
right.
go build that database. But like, what else are you going to do? You're gonna have to you want to flyer more, buy more leads, or build more relationships. You got to do more of something.
Yeah,
So pick your
yeah,
poison.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's they always say it's an easy, but it's complicated. It's not easy, or it's easy.
It's
I don't know.
simple, but it's not easy.
Exactly. That's the phrase, and
Yeah, it's hard work,
it
but
is. It is.
you want like real estate has such an opportunity to make such great money, so it shouldn't be that easy, or else everyone would do it. But
Right.
it's simple, and man, do agents waste time on dumb activities like busy work. Like that's the other thing about why I enjoyed ParkBench for me and why our clients like it is think about like real estate as a funnel.
Yeah.
At the end, you have a closing. Right before the closing, You know, you have some clients you start working with. Right before that, you had a sales appointment where you got hired. And then right before that, you have a conversation that led to the sales appointment. And then above that, you had a whole bunch of marketing and advertising and
Yeah.
like prospecting. And so, really, the key is the meaningful conversation that leads to the sales appointment. And I've always tried to just stop doing those activities and just have more conversations.
Right.
And then you'll have more closings.
Right. 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 Don't major in minor activities is another way to say that. You
Yeah.
know, and Henry Ford said years and years ago, if you think you're right or if you think you're wrong, you're right. You know, if you think you can or if you think you can't, you're right. You know,
I
it's
know when we first created ParkBench, Amanda, we were sitting in a room and she was thinking about how to grow a real estate business. And she spent a whole day working on a flyer. And I said, so how was your day? What'd you do today to help you grow your business? She's like, well, I thought about my flyer and the copy on the flyer and the image of the flyer and what color, what matte or glossy. And I figured that out. And I figured the sizing. And then I went and made the design. And she's like, what a busy day. I'm like, you didn't talk to anyone. I'm like, you just made a flyer. I'm like, that's not work. I'm like, sure it is. It's work. You got busy, but you're still so far away from like
right.
the sales appointment.
Right.
And I find that especially with social media, if you that study that said where do homeowners find their agent, less than 1% of people find their agent on social media.
Huh.
Now, social media is a great way to like top agents know, flyering is really great with people who know you.
Yeah.
So you already have a relationship and you're now using a flyer or using a social post
Right.
or a video to
Right.
now stay top of mind and add even more value because you already have a relationship.
Right.
But it's not going to be the place where you meet new people who then all of a sudden start hiring you. And yet agents are like, well, I need to make a bunch of posts. Gary Vee said I need to do 100 posts a day. I'm like, well, Gary Vee was never a realtor. So he
Yeah.
doesn't
And
know
he's a
everything.
bit of a maniac anyway.
And
He's good,
so just
but
go talk to the top agents. You
yeah.
know, like it goes to like the CRM conversation that I've now really stopped thinking that agents need a CRM. The amount of top producers that I know who don't have a CRM, it blows my mind.
Yeah.
And it just really makes me think like, do you even like, sure, they're helpful.
Yeah.
I have a CRM. I like it. But do you need it? I don't
Yeah.
know.
I don't know where I'd be without mine because it does so many automated things for me, you know, and it alerts me and all that kind of stuff. But that isn't this show. That's a different show, the CRM show, right?
Oh, that's a whole can of worms.
Yeah, well, it all is, and you know, you get so many. Like we're sitting here talking half an hour about what ParkBench can do for you and what you need to do as an agent for it, and there are 1,000 ways to do it right and a million ways to do it wrong. But you have to find your way, what works for you, and you have to be working
Mhm.
at it on a daily and a consistent basis. Uh,
Totally.
and
The enjoyment factor, um, I tell agents like when they're, and I tell my sales team who talks to people, I say, look, the person needs to like, you need to present the activities that they're going to do if they join ParkBench, and they need to enjoy the idea. Like they need to think it's going to be fun
yeah,
because I can create I can prove on paper and logic and numbers this is the best way to build your business, ROI on time, ROI on money, and no one's proven me that on any other thing is better. But if someone doesn't enjoy the idea of getting out in their community and interviewing people in their community and getting to know them and being one-on-one and face-to-face, if that's not caters to that person's personality, they shouldn't do it.
exactly,
Because the best program is the thing that you do
exactly.
over and over and over and over again.
Yeah, yeah,
So I'm a huge believer in that. You know, again, everything works,
yeah, yeah. Hey,
but
look,
who are you?
right, right. Know what you are. Know who
Yeah,
you
know
are,
your
and
personality, your strengths.
be
Yeah.
consistent and be consistent with that. Um, Grant, how will people get in touch with you? They're interested in ParkBench. They're interested in having a greater conversation with you. How do people get in touch with you?
Yeah, you can either go to parkbench.com, click the real estate agent button. You can fill in a form and then someone will reach out to you. If you want to email me, it's grant@parkbench.com. Nice and simple. You can DM me on social media. I'm the only Grant Findlay-Shirras in the world. So you just type my name in and I will pop up. There is no one with my name, for good and for worse.
Yeah.
So happy to help and help people figure out whether they should work with us or not. I'll be the first to tell someone that based on their values, their personality, their strategy, they shouldn't do it, or help them figure out what they need to figure out so that if it is aligned with their personality and values, they're able to get started somehow, some way. They're able to get started.
Oh, there we are. That tells us it's time. Thank you so much. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. Join in next week, and we'll have another great guest. Thank you, Grant. It's been a pleasure. Hopefully, it won't be another 2 years before we talk again.
Thanks, Larry.
Okay.